The Rewired Mind, Building Your Path with Skill and Boldness. Introduction. In a world saturated with ephemeral data, what truly possesses enduring worth? It is not merely the accumulation of knowledge, but the capacity for its application. Skills represent the silent, potent currency of existence, the very foundation upon which opportunity is erected and identity is sculpted. We often meander through life, lulled by the illusion that time alone will distill clarity. Yet, the stark reality is that time uninvested in the cultivation of skill exacts a formidable toll, a price paid in the currency of squandered potential and the corrosive ache of unrealized capacity. This is not an exhortation to await serendipitous enlightenment, but a call to actively forge the wherewithal to navigate life's often uncharted terrain. I recall my own nascent struggles, a period when the path ahead seemed an impenetrable thicket. I ventured into journalism, seeking to imbue my voice with the incisive immediacy of the news cycle. I then turned to novel writing, captivated by the dream of conjuring worlds from the ether of pure imagination. To be candid, the experience was frequently fraught with dissatisfaction. The words resisted their flow, the narratives felt anemic, and the looming specter of deadlines hung heavy, like thunderclouds portending a storm. Yet, in retrospect, I perceive that each hour I wrestled with language, each piece of critique I absorbed, each deadline, met under duress, accomplished far more than the mere generation of content. It was fundamentally reconfiguring the very architecture of my cognitive landscape. Brick by painstaking brick, I was developing tangible proficiency, even when the process felt arduous. What eluded my understanding then was that this unwavering dedication was the crucible for a profound metamorphosis. Science now validates what many have intuitively sensed. Our brains are not immutable structures. They are dynamic, remarkably adaptable, and, crucially, possess the inherent ability to be rewired through deliberate practice and strategic focus. Consider the neuroscientist observing how targeted interventions can induce structural alterations in the brains of individuals grappling with obsessive thoughts. The identical principle governs our capacity to intentionally reshape our own minds. This is the very essence of skill-driven brain plasticity. In the absence of a honed skill set, existence often resembles navigating through an impenetrable miasma. Aspirations may abound, but the faculty to translate them into action remains severely circumscribed. However, as we refine our proficiencies, the fog begins to dissipate, revealing a more discernible trajectory. This emergent clarity transcends mere perception of the path. It encompasses an understanding of the rationale behind our journey. The diligent development of skill can unearth opportunities previously unimagined. The impetus to launch an enterprise, to manifest something of genuine significance, to become an indispensable resource for your expertise. It transforms you from a passive observer of circumstance into an active architect of your destiny. This is not solely about external accolades, it is about the seismic internal shift that transpires. As your capabilities expand, your sense of self solidifies, transitioning from a state of wavering uncertainty to a robust, grounded awareness of your identity and your unique contributions. This rewiring is not a metaphor, it is a literal, physiological transformation. Every practiced skill fortifies neural pathways, fostering more efficient connections, rendering complex endeavors intuitively manageable, and augmenting your cognitive and emotional repertoire. Your brain, quite literally, becomes more adept because you have consciously and deliberately trained it to be so. Yet, even the most formidable arsenal of skills can lie dormant without the fortitude to deploy it. This is the juncture where boldness assumes its rightful place, the unhesitating willingness to advance, to embrace risk, to engage with the world even when uncertainty casts its shadow. Skills furnish the instruments, but boldness provides the engine to wield them. In an epoch where conformity often masquerades as security and individuality can elicit opprobrium, boldness evolves from a mere advantage into an indispensable requisite for carving out your distinct niche. This book serves as your compass, guiding you toward an understanding and mastery of the profound potency inherent in skill-driven brain plasticity. It is an invitation to deliberately acquire the skills that will reconfigure your mind, unleash your latent potential, and, when synergized with unyielding boldness, empower you to traverse confusion, redefine your identity, and ultimately construct a life imbued with purpose and meaning. Prepare to embark on a transformative odyssey, where each challenge becomes a stepping stone and every acquired skill transforms into a key, unlocking the most empowered iteration of yourself. Chapter 1. The Power of Skill and Personal Growth. 1. How skills change the brain. Our brains are not static etchings, fixed in permanence upon reaching adulthood. Rather, they are dynamic, living tapestries, perpetually woven and rewoven by the threads of our experiences. This extraordinary capacity for cerebral metamorphosis is termed skill-driven brain plasticity. It lies at the very heart of this book's premise, that through the deliberate cultivation and rigorous practice of new proficiencies, we transcend mere acquisition of abilities. We fundamentally reconfigure the intricate circuitry of our minds. This is not solely about achieving mastery, it is about becoming more adept, more resilient, and more authentically ourselves. Envision your brain as an expansive, untamed wilderness. When embarking on the journey of learning something novel, it is akin to attempting to carve a path through an impenetrable thicket. Progress is arduous, fraught with difficulty, and the risk of disorientation looms. Yet, with each deliberate step, with every exertion to push through the encroaching undergrowth, that trail becomes incrementally clearer. You fortify the terrain, dismantle impediments, and render the route more accessible for yourself and for those who may follow. This is precisely the metamorphosis occurring within your brain as you acquire a skill. Each instance you direct your cognitive focus toward a new endeavor, a fresh datum of knowledge, or an innovative methodology. You are effectively issuing a directive to your brain. This holds significance. Attend to it. Your brain responds by forging novel interconnections between its cellular messengers, the neurons. Conceive of these neurons as microscopic couriers. When the imperative arises for them to communicate regarding a specific skill, they construct new conduits, much like establishing new telecommunication lines. This phenomenon is known as synaptogenesis, a term that encapsulates the genesis of new junctions, or synapses, between neurons. In the nascent stages of grappling with a demanding skill, such as acquiring a foreign tongue or mastering a complex musical composition, these neural pathways are tenuous and susceptible. The signals traversing between neurons are sluggish, mirroring the congestion of traffic on a narrow, rutted thoroughfare. This explains the common beginner's sensation of slowness, awkwardness, and uncertainty. Their brain is still in the process of constructing its foundational infrastructure. However, herein lies the transformative power of perseverance. The more assiduously you practice that skill, the more frequently you traverse those specific neural routes, the more robust they become. It is analogous to construction crews laboring tirelessly to widen thoroughfares, pave them smoothly, and augment the number of lanes. Your brain begins to construct a more substantial, resilient nexus between those neurons. This reinforcement of pre-existing connections is an equally vital component of neuroplasticity. The more a pathway is utilized, the greater its prioritization by the brain, rendering it more efficient and dependable. Now, let us explore a mechanism that imbues these pathways with remarkable swiftness: myelination. Conceptualize myelin as a protective, insulating sheath that encases the elongated, slender fibers of your neurons, known as axons. This sheathing functions akin to the insulation on an electrical conductor. It facilitates the transmission of electrical impulses, your thoughts and directives, at a significantly accelerated pace and with diminished resistance. As you consistently engage in the practice of a skill, your brain initiates the production of additional myelin around the axons actively engaged in that specific proficiency. This process, myelination, is tantamount to an upgrade of your brain's internal transit system. What was once a slow, single-lane artery transforms into a multi-lane superhighway. Consequently, your capacity for thought accelerates, your reaction times sharpen, and you execute the skill with considerably greater ease and fluidity. The disparity between a novice fumbling through a sentence and an accomplished typist effortlessly gliding across the keyboard is largely attributable to myelination. The neural pathways dedicated to typing have become highly myelinated, permitting signals to dart between the brain and the fingertips with lightning velocity. This heightened efficiency is a direct consequence of dedicated practice. The impact extends beyond mere acceleration of existing pathways. The acquisition of new skills can precipitate tangible alterations in the size and density of specific cerebral regions. Your brain exhibits remarkable adaptability, expanding and reconfiguring in response to the demands you impose upon it. For instance, research has indicated that individuals who learn to play a musical instrument develop enlarged areas within their brains, responsible for auditory processing and motor control. Similarly, taxi drivers tasked with navigating intricate urban landscapes often display an increase in the volume of their hippocampus, a brain region critical for spatial memory and orientation. This serves as a potent testament to skill-driven brain plasticity. The brain physically reconfigures itself to excel at the tasks you assign it. It functions much like a muscle that strengthens with exertion, but instead of your biceps, it is specific cerebral territories that achieve greater development. This concept was powerfully illuminated in investigations involving individuals contending with obsessive-compulsive disorder (OCD). By imparting to them specific cognitive strategies, essentially novel mental techniques for managing their thoughts and anxieties, scientists observed quantifiable modifications in the architecture of their brains. Certain regions previously exhibiting hyperactive patterns began to display diminished activity, and the physical interconnections within those areas underwent alteration. This was not a passive phenomenon, it was the outcome of active, concentrated mental exertion, demonstrating that deliberate learning and practice can physically reshape the brain, even in areas associated with deeply ingrained patterns. This stands as a profound illustration of how skill-driven brain plasticity transcends the mere acquisition of skills like juggling or coding, extending to a fundamental reshaping of our internal cognitive landscape. One of the most exhilarating facets of skill-driven brain plasticity is that its benefits reverberate far beyond the confines of the specific skill being cultivated. The cognitive processes inherent in acquiring any new proficiency, such as enhancing one's capacity for focus, problem-solving, information retention, and pattern recognition, function as mental exercises that fortify and invigorate your entire brain. When you challenge yourself to learn something novel, you are, in essence, conditioning your brain's executive functions. These are the sophisticated cognitive faculties that facilitate planning, organization, time management, impulse control, and adaptation to novel circumstances. For example, the endeavor of learning to code necessitates extensive logical reasoning and the deconstruction of complex problems into discrete, manageable components. This practice in logical deduction can translate into improved problem-solving capabilities across various life domains, from tackling a perplexing work assignment to orchestrating an elaborate journey. Likewise, mastering an intricate culinary recipe demands meticulous planning, precise execution, and the ability to adhere to instructions. This can augment your overarching organizational and execution proficiencies, rendering you more effective in managing your daily responsibilities. The mental discipline required to persist with a challenging learning process cultivates resilience. You learn to tolerate frustration, surmount setbacks, and persevere, qualities that are invaluable for navigating life's inevitable adversities. This enhanced cognitive flexibility signifies that your brain becomes more adaptable, more adept at future learning, and better equipped to confront unforeseen challenges. Now, let us address a question that frequently arises. How does the difficulty or even the initial aversion to a skill contribute to or accelerate this brain rewiring process, as opposed to learning something intrinsically enjoyable? This is a critical juncture, and it delves into the very essence of why embracing challenges is paramount for growth. When a skill presents itself as facile or immediately gratifying, our brains may not always engage with the same intensity. The existing neural pathways might be partially established, or the immediate reward might diminish the profound cognitive exertion necessary for significant rewiring. It is akin to traversing a familiar, well-worn path. It offers comfort, but it does not necessarily forge new roots. Conversely, when a skill proves arduous or even initially disagreeable, it compels your brain to engage at a deeper stratum. You encounter obstacles, you commit errors, and you are compelled to actively problem-solve your way through them. This struggle is not an indicator of failure, it signifies that your brain is being stretched to its limits, and it is precisely at this threshold that profound transformation occurs. Imagine endeavoring to learn a new language when languages are not your particular forte. The grammar appears bewildering, the pronunciation feels unnatural, and you may experience embarrassment when you speak. Each of these challenges demands substantial cognitive effort. You must concentrate more intensely to decipher grammatical constructs, meticulously practice phonemes that do not readily emerge, and actively manage feelings of discomfort and self-doubt. This heightened engagement is the catalyst for the most significant neural alterations. The brain must exert extraordinary effort to construct those nascent pathways, fortify those connections, and insulate those axons. The exertion required to surmount initial aversion and difficulty is precisely what engenders more robust and enduring skill-driven brain plasticity. Consider it thus: a gentle rain nourishes the soil, but a tempest can reshape the very landscape. The discomfort and struggle inherent in mastering a challenging skill are analogous to that tempest. They compel your brain to adapt in ways that pure enjoyment might not. The brain is remarkably efficient. It allocates resources preferentially to tasks that demand significant effort and are critical for survival, or in this context, for adaptation and overcoming adversity. When you persist through difficulty, you transmit a potent signal to your brain that this is a vital arena for development, and it will respond by dedicating increased resources to its own rewiring. This is why experiences that might initially feel like setbacks, or even wasted time, can in fact represent the most fertile ground for personal metamorphosis. The hours spent wrestling with a complex concept, the frustration of not immediately grasping a principle, the sheer effort of pushing through a task you would rather evade, these are not in vain. They are the very experiences actively constructing a more capable, resilient, and adaptable brain. They are the crucible in which skill-driven brain plasticity truly takes hold, forging not merely competence, but a deeper, more fundamental transformation in who you are and what you are capable of achieving. This profound biological rewiring, propelled by our dedication to skill acquisition, transcends mere proficiency in a specific task. It fundamentally reconfigures the architecture of our minds. As our neural pathways solidify and our cognitive mechanisms achieve greater efficiency, we begin to perceive the world through a new lens, unlocking the potential for novel possibilities and a more robust sense of self. Yet, this internal metamorphosis is but the initial phase. To truly harness this newfound capacity and navigate the complexities of existence, we must couple it with an unwavering resolve to act with boldness. 2. Finding your path alone. Life rarely presents a meticulously charted course. More often, we find ourselves at an unmarked juncture, the way forward obscured by a dense fog, devoid of any discernible signposts to direct our steps. This sensation of being unmoored, of needing to forge understanding from within, is a universal human experience. It is an intrinsic element of the voyage, particularly when we embark on acquiring new knowledge, cultivating a skill, or simply discerning the evolving contours of our identity. The profound truth is that the most significant transformations frequently emerge when we are left to our own devices, when the external landscape offers scant direction. This is not an indictment of deficiency or a lack of support. Rather, it is often the very catalyst that ignites our innate drive and compels us toward self-reliance. Consider this: when the imperative to act is not dictated by external decree, the onus falls upon your internal dialogue. Experimentation becomes paramount. Endeavor becomes the currency, and failure, at times, a necessary tuition. This process of autonomous learning, of navigating complexity through intuitive exploration, possesses an extraordinary potency. Even if the task itself does not initially resonate with pleasure, the act of confronting adversity, of wrestling with a problem until a resolution Christie's, is what truly sculpts character. These are the crucibles wherein we begin to carve our unique trajectory, not by mandate, but by a deeply held personal conviction of its significance. This self-directed exertion forms the bedrock of genuine mastery. It is the mechanism by which we transcend mere theoretical apprehension to achieve profound practical knowing. When confronted with the necessity of learning and problem-solving in absolute solitude, our cognitive faculties are galvanized. They are not afforded the luxury of adhering to a preordained script. Instead, they are compelled toward innovation. New connections are sought, novel approaches to challenges are devised. This transcends rote memorization, it is a tangible recalibration of our neural architecture. Each instance of grappling with an intricate problem lacking an immediate solution, each occasion of forging a new skill from its nascent stages, reshapes our neural pathways. This phenomenon, which we term skill-driven brain plasticity, is analogous to our brain constructing new arterial routes and byways in response to the demands we impose. The greater our engagement with this independent learning and problem-solving, the more adaptable and proficient our minds become. It is a direct consequence of our willingness to confront ambiguity and actively pursue comprehension. The act of charting one's own course, of navigating the uncharted, transcends the mere cultivation of competence. It fosters something more profound, an internal compass. This compass is comprised of self-trust, a finely honed intuition, and an unclouded apprehension of one's capabilities and deepest desires. Each successful navigation of a solitary challenge, each skill acquired through personal exertion, fortifies this internal compass. It is akin to a muscle that gains strength with every exertion. This intrinsic guidance system is invaluable. It empowers decision-making, not based on external expectations or prevailing trends, but on what resonates as authentic and true. It is the quiet assurance that arises from the knowledge of one's own dependable fortitude, irrespective of circumstance. Frequently, the most transformative personal evolutions unfold in moments of quiet introspection, unobserved and unapplauded. It is during these periods of unrecognized endeavor that the essential work is accomplished. The value lies not in immediate commendation or external affirmation. Instead, it resides in the internal shifts, the gradual accretion of skill that will ultimately unlock unforeseen opportunities. This is the meticulous construction of real-level skill, brick by painstaking brick, through unwavering dedication and perseverance. It is a process that may initially appear gradual or even imperceptible, yet it forms the immutable foundation upon which enduring success and a robust sense of self are erected. Let us consider an illustrative scenario. Envision a young woman, Anya by name, possessed of a profound affinity for drawing. From her formative years, she lacked access to formal artistic instruction or mentorship. While her parents offered unwavering support, their own artistic acumen was limited. Consequently, Anya's journey was one of solitary exploration. She would dedicate countless hours to her pencil and paper, striving to render the world around her. She would meticulously study images and books, endeavoring to comprehend how lines and shading coalesce to define form. Mistakes were inevitable, her envisioned outcomes often eluded her grasp, and moments of frustration were not uncommon. Yet, with each setback, she would resolutely resume her artistic pursuit. She was self-teaching the principles of perspective, light, and shadow, not through didactic instruction, but through relentless practice and keen observation. Her brain was actively engaged in a process of neural rewiring during these solitary hours. New synaptic connections were forged as she grappled with the challenge of translating a three-dimensional reality onto a two-dimensional plane. She was cultivating a unique visual literacy, a distinctive mode of perception and comprehension of form, shaped entirely by her individual learning trajectory. This was not merely an exercise in refining her drawing technique, it was a profound development of problem-solving acumen, unwavering patience, and a deep-seated sense of self-efficacy. When, years later, she finally had the opportunity to present her artwork to an experienced art instructor, the teacher was not only impressed by her technical proficiency, but also by the distinctive voice that permeated her creations, a voice undeniably shaped by her independent odyssey. Anya's path, though solitary, had forged an artist of formidable internal capacity, endowed with skills and confidence that no amount of external direction could have replicated. The absence of external guidance, far from being an impediment, actively compels a more profound immersion in the learning process. When the directive is not explicitly provided, the imperative to question why and how arises organically. The task necessitates deconstruction into constituent elements, experimentation with diverse methodologies, and diligent learning from the resultant outcomes. This active problem-solving, fueled by intrinsic necessity, serves as a potent catalyst for skill-driven brain plasticity. Your brain is not passively absorbing information, it is actively constructing knowledge and capabilities. This imbues the learning with a robustness and depth of integration. It is akin to constructing a dwelling from its foundational elements, rather than merely adorning a pre-existing edifice. The foundation you personally erect possesses an immeasurably greater strength. The psychological and neurological dividends derived from confronting and overcoming the inherent discomfort of solitary pathfinding are substantial. Foremost among these is the cultivation of resilience. Each instance of confronting a challenge without immediate assistance and successfully navigating it imbues you with a reservoir of confidence. You internalize the understanding that you possess the capacity to surmount difficulties, that you are equipped with the requisite internal resources to resolve complex situations. This resilience is indispensable for confronting the inevitable adversities that life presents. Neurologically, this process augments those areas of the brain associated with executive function, strategic planning, and problem solving. You become more adept at anticipating obstacles, formulating strategies, and adapting when circumstances deviate from expectation. This internal fortitude, meticulously forged through solitary effort, constitutes a cornerstone of a robust self-identity. You begin to perceive yourself not as an entity requiring constant guidance, but as one capable of self-direction. Beyond the mere acquisition of competence, the solitary pursuit of skill development cultivates the internal confidence and resilience that form the bedrock of audacious action. When you have dedicated time to honing a skill through personal trial and error, you develop an intimate and nuanced understanding of its intricacies. You become cognizant of its strengths and limitations, as well as your own within its domain. This profound, personal mastery engenders a quiet self-assurance that requires no external validation. You are not boasting of potential capabilities, you are grounded in the concrete knowledge of what you demonstrably can achieve, having accomplished it through your own sustained efforts. This self-assurance is the fertile ground from which boldness springs forth. It is the conviction that you possess something of inherent value to contribute, something earned through your own dedicated labor. This is the very essence of confidence that empowers you to advance, to embrace calculated risks, and to pursue opportunities with unwavering conviction, even when the path ahead remains indistinct. Consider the narrative of a man named Ben. Ben harbored a profound fascination with antique timepieces. He lacked formal horological training, and no clock repair establishments existed in his modest locale where he might undertake an apprenticeship. His initial endeavor involved a defunct pocket watch acquired at a flea market. He procured relevant literature, consulted rudimentary online video resources, and painstakingly disassembled the timepiece, component by minuscule component. It was a protracted, often exasperating undertaking. Springs were misplaced, components remained unidentifiable, and numerous errors necessitated backtracking. His workbench became a chaotic repository of minuscule gears, screws, and specialized implements that he had to devise methods for utilizing or even fabricate himself. Yet, with each clock he successfully revitalized, Ben's comprehension deepened. His manual dexterity increased, his visual acuity sharpened. He assimilated the intricate lexicon of cogs and escapements through immersive, hands-on experience. His brain was actively engaged in a process of neural adaptation, forging new pathways dedicated to the fine motor control and spatial reasoning essential for horology. He was not merely learning to mend clocks, he was mastering the art of resolving intricate mechanical enigmas, comprehending complex systems, and persevering through labyrinthine challenges. This solitary pursuit instilled within him an immense sense of capability. When he eventually established a modest repair service, patrons were drawn to his understated expertise. Extensive advertising proved unnecessary. Word of his skill, meticulously honed through years of independent devotion, disseminated organically. He had discovered his calling, not by traversing an established route, but by meticulously clearing his own, one resonant tick-tock at a time. The inherent beauty of this solitary approach to skill acquisition lies in its deeply personal nature. The proficiencies you attain are not merely instruments for external application, they become integral facets of your being. They shape your worldview, influence your judgments, and contribute to your fundamental identity. When the arduous process of learning has been undertaken independently, the skills acquired are not superficial. They are profoundly ingrained because you intimately understand the journey of their attainment. This fosters a profound sense of ownership and self-reliance. You recognize that your capabilities are not contingent upon external validation or instruction, but rather on your inherent capacity for learning and growth. This process also imparts a crucial lesson regarding patience and the long-term perspective. We inhabit a world that frequently extols rapid achievements and overnight triumphs. However, the reality of profound skill acquisition, particularly when undertaken in isolation, is characterized by incremental progress. It necessitates consistent engagement, sustained effort, and an unwavering belief that the cumulative impact of your endeavors will ultimately culminate in mastery. This patience, cultivated through solitary practice, is a rare and highly valued attribute. It empowers us to resist the allure of expediency and to focus on constructing something of genuine substance and enduring value. The internal compass we develop through this solo odyssey extends beyond mere functional knowledge. It encompasses an understanding of our very essence. When you are the architect of your decisions, the experimenter with diverse methodologies, and the learner from both triumphs and setbacks, you are actively defining your identity. You are not merely a passive recipient of information or an adherent to directives. You are a creator of your own comprehension and proficiencies. This active self-creation serves as a potent antidote to feelings of bewilderment or a perceived lack of purpose. It provides a stable, internal anchor capable of withstanding external pressures and uncertainties. Ultimately, discovering one's path independently represents a profound act of self-investment. It is an acknowledgement that one's potential is boundless, and that the most effective means of unlocking it often lies in one's own dedicated exertion. While external guidance can prove beneficial, the true forging of skill and character transpires when we embrace the challenge of navigating the unknown, relying on our own ingenuity and unwavering perseverance. This solitary journey not only builds skills, it cultivates a more robust, capable, and self-assured self, poised to confront whatever lies ahead. It prepares us for the subsequent critical phase, the transformation of that inner strength and clarity into decisive, bold action in the world. 3. Boldness in ideas and actions. We often find ourselves adrift in an ocean of conformity. Observe your surroundings, and you will witness individuals navigating their existence with a placid predictability, frequently apprehensive of deviating from the established course. This apprehension, this ingrained reluctance to embrace singularity, acts as an unseen tether, inhibiting the full spectrum of our self-expression. It is precisely why singular concepts and audacious undertakings radiate with such brilliance. They pierce through the cacophony of convention, asserting a potent declaration merely by their very presence. Consider this: the acquisition of a new skill precipitates an internal metamorphosis. You gain a more lucid perception of your capabilities, a quiet assurance born from the mastery of a new discipline. This internal evolution, this recalibration of your neural architecture, is the nascent stage. Yet, for this burgeoning clarity to exert a tangible influence, it requires a companion. That companion is audacity. Audacity serves as the engine, propelling your honed abilities into forward momentum, into meaningful transformation, into a life that resonates with your unique imprint. Absent this vital element, even the most incandescent skills risk remaining entombed, akin to treasures buried deep within the earth, unseen and unutilized. At times, the most effective means of comprehending audacity is to examine its antithesis. It is not synonymous with recklessness or foolhardiness. It does not necessitate possessing all the answers prior to embarking on a venture. Indeed, some of the most exhilarating breakthroughs emerge from the contrary. Envision a publication or an undertaking dedicated to flawed concepts. This notion might strike one as peculiar, even counterintuitive. Who would willingly explore ideas demonstrably lacking merit? Yet, therein lies the clandestine truth. The very act of pursuing an idea, even one that initially appears imperfect or improbable, is the crucible wherein magic is forged. It is through the exertion of effort, the experimentation, the intellectual wrestling with the concept, that genuine learning transpires. We begin to discern its latent potential, or we glean invaluable lessons from its deficiencies. This iterative process of action, of externalizing thought, is fundamental to the rewiring of our cognitive faculties. It transcends mere instruction. It is learning through the act of doing. Audacity bestows upon us the license to attempt, to falter, and to rise anew, fortified and enlightened. This leads us to a complex yet indispensable facet of audacity, its symbiosis with our self-perception, particularly as it pertains to men. Society frequently proffers contradictory signals. We may be exhorted to exhibit strength and decisiveness only to be censured if we exhibit an excess of these qualities. The conventional archetype of masculinity can, at times, feel constricting, with certain manifestations of boldness perceived as aggressive or transgressive. This ambiguity can impede men from embracing their innate propensities for action and leadership. However, boldness, when directed constructively and positively, represents a formidable force. It is not an expression of aggression, it is the embodiment of healthy assertiveness. It is the courage to champion one's convictions, to assume initiative, and to lead with unwavering resolve. As we cultivate new skills, we forge the internal fortitude and competence that empower us to manifest this assertiveness without the apprehension of appearing overbearing. This is where the redefinition of masculinity assumes paramount importance. It entails embracing attributes such as courage, accountability, and the drive to effect positive change, not as aggressive impulses, but as strengths that can be wielded for the collective good. By refining our proficiencies, we acquire the instruments to channel our intrinsic drive into constructive action, thereby cultivating a more robust and authentic sense of self. This is not about conforming to a prescribed mold, it is about constructing a self that is capable, assured, and contributes beneficially to the world. Confidence and boldness are not mere ephemeral sentiments. They are actions we undertake. They are, in a sense, performances, yet devoid of artifice or insincerity. When you conduct yourself with an air of confidence, when you move with a palpable sense of purpose, those around you take notice. They begin to perceive you as confident, and this perception can evolve into a self-actualizing prophecy. Such is the potency of embodying positive attributes. Even in the absence of complete self-assurance, the act of stepping forth with boldness can, in fact, engender that very feeling. It is analogous to learning to ride a bicycle. Initially, you may wobble and feel uncertain, but as you continue to pedal, as you practice, your body acquires balance, and your confidence flourishes. The same principle applies to boldness. Through the execution of bold actions, however minor, we commence to feel bolder. Our brains adapt, forging new neural pathways that underpin this nascent confidence. This outward manifestation of boldness, fueled by our honed skills, is the catalyst for new opportunities and a more refined understanding of our identity. How, then, does the dread of judgment or failure actively impede our ability to act upon our ideas? It is deeply embedded within our formative experiences and our innate desire for social integration. If we have been admonished that our ideas are frivolous, or if we have witnessed others being ridiculed for venturing into novel territory, we internalize the lesson of self-censorship. We become preoccupied with the opinions of others, with the prospect of appearing foolish. This apprehension can be profoundly debilitating. It dictates that maintaining a posture of safety and silence is preferable to risking embarrassment. Yet, This is precisely where skill acquisition intervenes. When you dedicate yourself to mastering a discipline, be it a craft, a technical expertise, or even the comprehension of an intricate subject, you are constructing a bedrock of competence. This competence functions as a bulwark against fear. The greater your certainty in your ability to execute a task, the less you are swayed by the opinions of others. You begin to place trust in your own discernment. Your brain, through the process of focused learning and diligent practice, undergoes a literal rewiring. It establishes novel neural connections, fortifying the regions associated with problem-solving, resilience, and self-efficacy. These are the internal resources that equip you to confront uncertainty. Rather than perceiving a challenge as a threat, you begin to view it as an opportunity to deploy your acquired skills. The fear does not vanish entirely, but it diminishes, transforming from a deafening roar into a manageable whisper. You cultivate the capacity to rebound from setbacks, secure in the knowledge that even if an idea proves unsuccessful, you have gleaned invaluable lessons from the endeavor. Consider the trajectory of an individual like Anya. Anya harbored a lifelong inclination towards writing, yet she perceived her ideas as overly simplistic, even commonplace. She would commence a narrative, only to delete it, convinced of its inadequacy. She observed other authors publishing their works and experienced a pang of envy, coupled with a profound sense of inadequacy. The fear of judgment was a constant companion. Then Anya resolved to adopt a different approach. Rather than awaiting a perfect, paradigm-shifting concept, she concentrated on the very skill of writing. She joined a local writing collective, committing to completing one short story each week, irrespective of its perceived flaws. She meticulously studied grammar, experimented with diverse narrative techniques, and engaged in extensive reading. With each completed story, even those that did not elicit her full approval, she felt a subtle shift. She was augmenting her writing prowess. She learned the art of plot construction, the creation of believable characters, and the deployment of evocative language. This process of deliberate practice began to recalibrate her neural pathways. It transcended mere rote memorization. It involved the genesis of new neural networks dedicated to storytelling. When she ultimately submitted a story to a modest literary journal, she remained apprehensive, yet the apprehension was transmuted. It was interwoven with a quiet assurance, a certitude derived from her diligent efforts. The story was accepted. This triumph was not solely attributable to publication. It was a validation of her capacity to confront her fear and act. The rewiring achieved through skill development had furnished her with the internal wherewithal for boldness. In what specific ways does the brain's rewiring through skill acquisition directly equip an individual with the internal resources essential for bold action, even when confronted with uncertainty or opposition? This is the domain where the concept of skill-driven brain plasticity truly distinguishes itself. When you engage in focused learning and practice, you are not merely acquiring external proficiency, you are fundamentally altering the very architecture and functionality of your brain. This internal transformation engenders novel connections and capabilities. For instance, the mastery of a complex skill such as coding necessitates intense concentration and problem-solving acumen. As you grapple with errors and logical inconsistencies, your brain fortifies the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for executive functions, including planning, decision-making, and impulse control. This enhanced executive function serves as a direct resource for boldness. It empowers you to deconstruct daunting tasks into manageable components, to strategize with efficacy, and to resist the urge to capitulate when faced with obstacles. Furthermore, the perseverance demanded by skill mastery cultivates resilience. Each instance of overcoming a challenge within your learning process, be it a formidable mathematical concept, a demanding musical passage, or a complex negotiation, reinforces your brain's capacity to endure adversity. This resilience is indispensable for boldness, as it enables you to recuperate from setbacks without diminishing your resolve. You learn that failure is not an endpoint, but a stepping stone. Your self-efficacy, your conviction in your own potential for success, also escalates exponentially. As you achieve minor victories in your skill development, your brain registers these accomplishments, initiating a positive feedback loop that Fuels escalating confidence. This internal reservoir of resilience, problem-solving capacity, and self-efficacy is precisely what equips you to act boldly even when confronted with opposition or the unknown. It is the inner strength that permits you to stand firm in your convictions, to articulate your ideas with clarity, and to pursue your objectives with unyielding determination. Consider the illustration of Leo, a young engineer whose passion lay in renewable energy. He harbored innovative concepts for a novel solar panel design, but his superiors exhibited reticence. They were content with the existing technology and perceived Leo's proposals as excessively precarious, insufficiently validated. Leo felt the familiar sting of doubt beginning to surface. Was he being imprudent? Was he overestimating his capabilities? However, Leo had dedicated years to refining his expertise in materials, science, and electrical engineering. He had invested countless hours in comprehending the intricate mechanisms of energy systems, troubleshooting complex circuitry, and meticulously documenting his findings. This unwavering commitment had rewired his brain, cultivating a profound depth of knowledge and a robust toolkit for problem solving. When confronted with the opposition from his superiors, Leo did not retreat. Instead, he leveraged his developed skills. He assiduously compiled data to substantiate his assertions, generated detailed simulations to demonstrate the efficacy of his design, and prepared lucid, concise presentations that addressed every conceivable concern. He was not merely presenting an idea. He was offering a solution underpinned by undeniable skill and empirical evidence. His boldness was not born of arrogance, but of a profound mastery of his subject matter. The rewiring of his brain through his skill development had endowed him with the confidence and the competence to articulate his vision with conviction even when met with skepticism. He possessed the internal resources to assert his position and champion his innovative path. In light of the societal pressures discussed, how can individuals cultivate and express boldness in their ideas and actions in a manner that is authentic to their developed skills and values rather than merely adopting a performative persona? This is a crucial inquiry, as genuine boldness is not about putting on a facade. It is about authentic self-expression, grounded in competence. The key lies in harmonizing your outward actions with your internal development. Authenticity emanates from the profound understanding that your skills confer upon you the right and the capacity to act. Firstly, endeavor to cultivate skills that genuinely captivate you and align with your fundamental values. If your value is creativity, dedicate yourself to mastering an artistic discipline or a design field. If your value is problem-solving, immerse yourself in disciplines such as science, technology, or strategic thinking. As you advance in these domains, your confidence will originate from a place of genuine mastery rather than from external validation. This internal validation serves as the bedrock of authentic boldness. Secondly, practice articulating your ideas in environments characterized by minimal stakes. Share your thoughts with trusted friends, family members, or colleagues. Participate in clubs or groups where you can voice your opinions and receive constructive feedback. This allows you to refine your communication skills and develop comfort with the concept of externalizing your thoughts. It is a gradual process of strengthening your boldness faculties. Thirdly, recognize that boldness does not invariably equate to being the most vociferous individual present. It can manifest as the quiet conviction of someone who has diligently prepared. It can be the courage to pose a challenging question, to offer an alternative perspective, or to quietly pursue an endeavor that others overlook. The Bad Ideas magazine example effectively illustrates this. The boldness resided in the act of its creation and dissemination, not necessarily in the inherent brilliance of every single concept contained within it. The value lay in the process, the exploration, and the willingness to present something to the world. Finally, engage in continuous reflection upon your experiences. Subsequent to acting boldly, allocate time to assess what proved effective, what did not, and what insights you gained. This self. 4. Being unique in a crowded world. In a world that often feels like a vast, bustling marketplace of ideas, personalities, and aspirations, it's easy to feel like just another face in the crowd. We see so many people striving for the same things, echoing the same sentiments, and following the same well-trodden paths. This pressure to fit in, to be like everyone else, can be incredibly strong. It whispers that blending in is safer, that standing out might attract unwanted attention or judgment. This fear of being different can hold us back, making us hesitant to explore our own unique interests or develop talents that don't seem to fit the mold. It's a quiet force, this urge to conform, but it can significantly dim the light of our individual potential. Yet, beneath the surface of shared experiences and common goals lies a deep, human yearning for something more, a desire to be truly seen, to be distinct, to offer something that only we can. This isn't about being strange or peculiar for the sake of it. It's about cultivating a genuine uniqueness, a quality that comes not from outward appearances or superficial differences, but from the depth and distinctiveness of what we've learned and how we've chosen to apply it. Think about it. What truly makes someone stand out? It's rarely just their clothes or their words. It's the unique way they approach a problem, the specific knowledge they possess, the mastery they've built over time through dedicated effort. This is where the magic of skill acquisition truly shines. It's the quiet, persistent work of learning and practicing that builds the foundation for our individuality. It's the commitment to developing a skill, even one that might seem odd or unimportant at first glance, that begins to carve out our unique space in the world. Consider the idea of bad ideas. Sometimes, the most groundbreaking innovations and the most compelling personal journeys begin with something that others might dismiss. Imagine a magazine, perhaps one that's a bit strange, filled with articles on topics no one else seems to care about. Maybe the history of forgotten tools, or the physics of juggling, or the art of perfect toast. At first glance, these might seem like trivial pursuits, hardly the stuff of success or recognition. But for the person who pours their heart and soul into understanding these subjects, who dedicates themselves to becoming an expert, something remarkable happens. They aren't just learning facts, they are building a unique perspective, a deep well of knowledge that sets them apart. This is where boldness becomes our ally. It's the boldness to pursue that bad idea, to dedicate ourselves to a skill that might not have immediate, obvious rewards, that truly begins to forge our distinctiveness. It's the courage to step off the crowded highway and explore a less traveled path, trusting that the skills we gather along the way will eventually lead us somewhere extraordinary. This journey of skill acquisition is far more than just accumulating a list of abilities. It's a profound process that physically reshapes our brains. This is the essence of skill-driven brain plasticity. When we focus our minds and our efforts on learning something new, especially when it's challenging or requires us to push past our comfort zones, our brains literally begin to change. New connections form between our brain cells, pathways strengthen, and our neural networks adapt. It's like building new roads and highways within our minds. This isn't just about becoming more competent in a particular task. It's about fundamentally altering how we think, how we perceive the world, and how we solve problems. As we dedicate ourselves to mastering a skill, our brains are rewiring themselves to better handle that skill, and in doing so, they are also rewiring our very sense of self. This internal transformation is what allows us to move from feeling like just another person to becoming someone with a unique perspective, a distinct way of operating, and a deeper understanding of our own capabilities. Our identity begins to be shaped not by what we consume or follow, but by what we actively create and master. So, how does this internal rewiring translate into external distinction? In a world brimming with talent and competition, a unique and well-honed skill set becomes our most powerful asset. It's what makes us stand out in a sea of sameness. Think of it as a value proposition. When employers are looking for someone to fill a role, or when collaborators are seeking partners for a project, or even when we're simply looking to connect with others on a deeper level, it's our unique combination of skills and the perspective they bring that truly differentiates us. It's not just about having a skill, it's about the depth of that skill, the combination of skills, and the boldness with which we apply them. This unique skill set creates opportunities that might otherwise remain hidden. It attracts attention not because we're shouting the loudest, but because we offer something genuinely valuable, something that others may not possess. It allows us to move beyond the simple act of competing and instead offer a unique contribution, a distinct solution, a fresh perspective. This is how we build a meaningful life, by offering what is uniquely ours, forged through the diligent and often bold pursuit of skill. Let's delve deeper into how the process of skill acquisition, especially when it involves navigating difficulty or initial dislike, creates a unique internal landscape that then manifests externally as distinctiveness. When we are forced to grapple with something that doesn't come naturally, something that initially feels like a chore or even an unpleasant experience, our brains are engaged in a particularly potent form of rewiring. We aren't just passively absorbing information, we are actively problem-solving. We are developing resilience, learning to push through frustration, and discovering strategies to overcome obstacles. This struggle, this effort to master something challenging, builds not only the specific skill, but also a host of related, cognitive and emotional strengths. Imagine someone who, as a young person, disliked the meticulous nature of learning a musical instrument. Perhaps they found the scales tedious and the practice sessions boring compared to more immediate forms of entertainment. However, they were encouraged, or perhaps they found an inner drive to persist. Through this persistence, they didn't just learn to play the piano, they cultivated an extraordinary level of patience, a deep appreciation for subtle nuances, and an ability to focus for extended periods. These are not just musical skills, they are life skills. This internal landscape, shaped by the struggle and eventual mastery of something initially disliked, now informs how they approach every other challenge. They might find themselves more patient in their relationships, more focused in their work, and more attuned to the finer details in their creative pursuits. This internal rewiring, born from the very difficulty of the learning process, becomes the bedrock of their unique way of being in the world. Externally, this distinctiveness becomes apparent in subtle yet powerful ways. This individual might not be the flashiest performer, but they might be the most reliable collaborator, the one who notices the small errors others miss, or the one who can patiently guide a team through a complex project. Their uniqueness isn't loud, it's embedded in their approach, their reliability, their depth of perception. They don't just do things, they are a certain way because of how their brain has been rewired through the deliberate acquisition of skills, particularly those that demanded more from them. This contrasts sharply with someone who only pursues easy wins or readily available information. While they might accumulate a broader range of superficial knowledge, they miss out on the profound internal restructuring that comes from wrestling with difficulty. Their brain pathways remain less specialized, less robust in certain areas, leading to a more generalized, less distinct internal and external presence. Now, let's consider the second analytical question. In an era of readily available information and imitation, what specific types of skills or skill combinations are most likely to foster genuine uniqueness, and how does boldness play a role in their development and application? In today's interconnected world, information is everywhere. We can learn almost anything online, and imitation is easier than ever. This makes developing truly unique skills even more critical, and it requires a strategic approach. Simply knowing a lot about a popular subject, or being able to perform a common skill competently, is no longer enough to guarantee distinction. Genuine uniqueness often arises from the combination of skills, especially when those skills are applied in unexpected ways. Think about someone who is a talented programmer, but also has a deep understanding of ancient philosophy. This combination is rare. They might be able to develop software that approaches complex ethical dilemmas in new ways, or create educational tools that bridge historical thought with modern technology. The boldness here is in choosing to cultivate both seemingly disparate areas of knowledge and then daring to integrate them. Another area ripe for uniqueness lies in skills that require deep, embodied practice rather than just theoretical knowledge. These are skills where mastery comes from years of repetition, refinement, and intuitive understanding. Examples include artisanal crafts, complex surgical techniques, highly specialized forms of athletic performance, or even the nuanced art of public speaking that goes beyond mere rhetoric to genuine connection. The information for these skills is available, but the skill itself cannot be truly learned through passive consumption. It demands active, often challenging, engagement. The boldness required here is to commit to the long, often solitary, journey of mastery, knowing that the rewards are not immediate but cumulative. Furthermore, uniqueness can be found in the ability to bridge different domains. This could be someone who understands both the scientific principles of climate change and the art of compelling storytelling. Their boldness allows them to translate complex data into narratives that resonate with a wider audience, fostering understanding and inspiring action. This ability to translate, to connect, to synthesize across disciplines is a hallmark of genuine distinction in our complex world. The role of boldness is paramount in both the development and application of these unique skills. It takes boldness to choose a path that isn't immediately popular or widely recognized. It takes boldness to invest time and energy into a skill that might not have a clear career path or immediate financial return. It takes boldness to apply that unique skill in a way that might challenge existing norms or expectations. Without boldness, even the most promising unique skill set can remain dormant, a hidden talent that never gets to shine. Boldness is the spark that ignites the engine of skill-driven uniqueness, allowing it to not only exist, but to flourish and make a tangible impact. The process of deeply acquiring a skill fundamentally alters our neural pathways, and this rewiring doesn't just make us better at the skill, it shapes our perception, our problem-solving abilities, and ultimately, our sense of self. This is where the magic of skill-driven brain plasticity becomes deeply personal, transforming into a redefined identity. When we spend hours, days, or even years honing a particular ability, whether it's coding complex algorithms, understanding the intricacies of human anatomy, or mastering the art of negotiation, our brains are not just storing information. They are building new structures, strengthening connections, and developing specialized processing centers. Consider the example of a chef who has spent decades developing their palate and mastering countless culinary techniques. This chef doesn't just know recipes, their brain has developed an intricate map of flavors, textures, and aromas. They can intuitively understand how ingredients will interact, anticipate potential problems, and create dishes that are both innovative and harmonious. This deep sensory and cognitive processing, honed through years of practice, becomes an integral part of their identity. They are not just someone who cooks, they are a chef, and that identity is deeply interwoven with the physical and functional changes in their brain. Their way of seeing the world, even outside the kitchen, might be influenced by this skill. They might notice the subtle interplay of elements in a piece of art or the complex dynamics in a team meeting with a similar nuanced understanding. This rewiring affects our problem-solving abilities in profound ways. Someone who has extensively practiced logical reasoning, perhaps through studying mathematics or engaging in complex strategic games, will have developed neural pathways that excel at breaking down problems, identifying patterns, and formulating logical solutions. This isn't just about being good at math. It's about having a mind that is wired for analytical thinking, which can then be applied to any challenge, from a work project to a personal dilemma. This specialized cognitive architecture becomes a defining characteristic of their identity. Ultimately, this process of skill-driven brain plasticity leads to a more empowered mind capable of navigating confusion, redefining personal identity, and creating a meaningful life. When we actively engage in skill development, we are not merely gaining external competence, we are undergoing an internal transformation. This transformation creates new connections, new capabilities, and a more robust, adaptable self. This empowered mind is less susceptible to the pressures of conformity. Chapter 2. Confidence, Control, and Redefining Masculinity. 1. Confidence as a growth tool. We often mistake confidence for an innate trait, a binary on or off switch. We hold back from challenges, from voicing our thoughts, from chasing our aspirations, waiting for the elusive feeling of confidence, to descend. But consider this inversion. What if confidence is not the genesis of action, but its ultimate reward? What if it is the destination we reach through the very processes of doing, learning, and extending our limits? This paradigm shift is fundamental to forging a truly rewired mind. Reflect on your initial forays into a new skill, be it mastering a musical instrument or delving into the intricacies of coding. Was confidence your immediate companion? The early stages were probably marked by stumbles, missteps, and a healthy dose of apprehension. Yet, with each dedicated practice, each incremental victory, a perfectly struck note, a functional line of code, a transformation began. A nascent sense of capability emerged, a quiet murmur of "I can manage this." This burgeoning competence, this subtle whisper of self-efficacy, is confidence in its nascent form, painstakingly constructed. This is the profound manifestation of skill-driven brain plasticity. Your brain is not a passive vessel, it is an active architect, forging new connections and reinforcing neural pathways through focused engagement and diligent practice. This dynamic process not only refines your proficiency, but fundamentally reshapes your inner landscape, with confidence emerging as one of its most potent transformations. Herein lies our agency, to actively wield confidence as an instrument of growth, rather than passively awaiting its arrival. It is the recognition that confidence is frequently the consequence of action, not its prerequisite. Envision a scenario where confidence is conspicuously absent. The conventional wisdom dictates a pause, a period of internal cultivation before proceeding. The Rewired Mind approach, however, advocates the contrary. It urges you to embark on a small, courageous action in spite of that deficit. While it may feel performative, even disingenuous, it is, in fact, the nascent step toward generating the very confidence you seek. By acting, you engage with reality, confront obstacles, and, crucially, initiate the process of learning. This initiates a potent, self-reinforcing cycle that can redefine your trajectory. Action begets skill, skill cultivates confidence, and confidence fuels bolder action. Let us dissect this elegant progression. You initiate an action, perhaps driven by a need to validate yourself or simply to break free from inertia. This action, even if imperfect, becomes a fertile ground for learning. You commence the acquisition of a new skill or deepen an existing one. As your competence expands, so too does your authentic confidence. You begin to place greater trust in your abilities. This amplified confidence then empowers you to embrace more substantial challenges, to venture beyond your established boundaries. And what transpires when you embrace these bolder actions? You absorb more knowledge, hone more skills, and your confidence solidifies further. It is a magnificent, self-sustaining engine of personal evolution. Consider the profound wisdom embedded in recalling specific instances of past triumph. This is not an indulgence in wistful reminiscence, but a deliberate act of accessing the neural pathways that house the memory of your competence. Cast your mind back to a moment of unequivocal success. Perhaps it was a decisive play on the sports field, a presentation that enthralled your audience, or a complex problem you elegantly solved at work. Do not merely recall it, endeavor to re-experience it. How did it manifest in your physiology? What was your mental state? Which specific actions precipitated that success? By vividly replaying these moments, you transcend mere recollection. You activate the neural networks intrinsically linked to competence and achievement. This mental rehearsal, in a very tangible sense, can generate a contemporary feeling of confidence. It is akin to a psychological download, transferring the irrefutable evidence of your capability from the past into the present, thereby equipping you with the courage to act now. This is a direct illustration of how our thoughts and memories can profoundly influence our brains, offering a potent antidote to self-doubt. This cultivated confidence, born from decisive action and the vivid evocation of past victories, is not a mere illusion. It is a functional instrument that renders us more amenable to learning and more resilient in the face of adversity. When a foundational sense of confidence is present, the prospect of embarking on something new, of confronting a demanding task, feels less formidable. The specter of failure recedes, supplanted by an inherent curiosity about the learning process. You are more inclined to embrace challenges, viewing them not as threats, but as invaluable opportunities to expand your repertoire of abilities. This is paramount for skill-driven brain plasticity. The brain undergoes its most profound transformations when it is actively challenged. If fear and a lack of confidence impede your engagement with these challenges, your brain's innate capacity for growth remains dormant. Confidence, therefore, serves as the indispensable key that unlocks the gateway to further skill acquisition. It acts as a vital buffer, enabling you to persevere through the inevitable plateaus and frustrations that accompany the mastery of anything truly worthwhile. Without it, the painful consequences of not learning skills that I have previously articulated become a far more probable reality, leaving you ensnared in a state of endless confusion. Furthermore, the very manner in which we present ourselves, our posture, our vocal cadence, our overall bearing, exerts a significant influence on how others perceive us, and this perception, in turn, can fortify our own internal sense of capability. When you stand erect, maintain eye contact, and speak with clarity and steadiness, you project an aura of confidence. This outward projection can, surprisingly, lead others to infer that this confidence is deeply ingrained. They may be more inclined to place their trust in you, to extend opportunities, to lend an ear to your ideas. This external affirmation, while not the ultimate objective, can serve as a potent reinforcement for your developing internal confidence. It bears a resemblance to smiling. Research indicates that the physical act of smiling can, in fact, elicit feelings of happiness. Similarly, embodying confidence can actively contribute to feeling more confident. This is not about adopting an air of arrogance or feigning authenticity. It is about comprehending the profound interplay between our physical presence and our psychological state. It is about utilizing your body as a deliberate instrument to sculpt your mind. So, how do we actively nurture this growth confidence when it seems entirely absent? It commences with the acknowledgement that confidence is, in itself, a skill, one that is amenable to learning and diligent practice. The initial step involves intentionally engaging in action, however modest it may appear. If you are confronted by an overwhelming task, deconstruct it into its most minute constituent parts. Focus your efforts on completing just one of those components. This represents your inaugural act of boldness, your initial investment in the architecture of confidence. Upon completing that small step, acknowledge it. Grant yourself due recognition. This marks the inception of a habit of acknowledging your own agency. Subsequently, actively seek out opportunities to practice skills, even those that do not immediately ignite your enthusiasm. Remember, skill-driven brain plasticity underscores that the brain undergoes transformation through focused learning and practice, irrespective of initial inclination. The very act of navigating the discomfort inherent in learning something new and subsequently achieving a degree of mastery is a profoundly potent confidence builder. You are demonstrably proving to yourself that you possess the capacity to surmount challenges, to learn, and to evolve. This is immeasurably more impactful than passively awaiting the spontaneous emergence of effortless competence. Then, make it a deliberate practice to regularly revisit your past successes. Allocate a few minutes each week to document, or mentally retrace, moments where you exhibited competence, resilience, or achievement. Be specific. What was the context? What actions did you take? What was the outcome? The more detailed and vivid you can render these recollections, the more profoundly they will reinforce your belief in your own inherent capabilities. This is not an exercise in self-congratulation. It is an act of gathering irrefutable evidence for your own mind that you are both capable and resourceful. Finally, pay scrupulous attention to your physical presentation. Practice standing tall, maintaining eye contact, and speaking with clarity. These are not merely social conventions. They are potent tools capable of influencing your internal state and the manner in which others engage with you. When you project confidence, you create avenues for positive reinforcement, which in turn further fuels your developing sense of self-assurance. By embracing confidence not as an immutable characteristic, but as a dynamic instrument forged through action and skill, we unlock our latent capacity for more ambitious undertakings. This newfound internal power, however, necessitates direction. The subsequent critical element in navigating life's complexities is the conscious cultivation of self-control, the ability to channel our impulses and purposefully direct our energy, ensuring that our confidence and boldness serve our long-term objectives rather than leading us astray. 2. Mastering self-control. True confidence is not a boisterous proclamation or a swaggering gait. It is a quiet, unwavering thrum from within, a profound certainty in one's capacity to navigate life's inevitable challenges. This inner fortitude, this unshakable self-belief, is not forged from hollow boasts or the fickle approval of others. Instead, it is meticulously constructed, piece by deliberate piece, upon the bedrock of self-command. Consider it thus: if your life is a vessel, confidence is its serene passage, but self-control is the captain at the helm, guiding it through tempest and calm with a steady hand. When you master your impulses, your emotions, and your actions, you forge an internal compass of immense power. This compass directs you toward your aspirations, even when distractions beckon or obstacles loom. It is the sensation of being the master of your own domain, rather than being buffeted by every passing wave of desire or frustration. This internal dominion is the authentic fount of confidence, a resilience that external forces cannot easily erode. The concept of masculine energy is often invoked, sometimes unfairly maligned. It can be misconstrued as aggression, a need for dominance, or a restless ambition. Yet, a crucial truth emerges: these energies, when left untamed, can indeed prove destructive. They can sow discord, precipitate rash decisions that harm oneself and others, and cultivate an atmosphere of chaos. However, these very energies, when understood and purposefully directed, become potent forces for good. They are the engine of aspiration, the spark of innovation, and the fuel for confronting the most formidable challenges. The imperative is not to suppress these drives, but to master them. This is where the profound impact of skill-driven brain plasticity becomes evident. Learning to govern our impulses, to choose our responses, is not merely a mental exercise. It is a physical rewiring of our neural architecture. We are, in essence, acquiring a new skill, the skill of self-direction. This proficiency enables us to channel that raw, potent masculine energy into constructive endeavors, into building enterprises, crafting art, leading teams, or simply cultivating a more refined version of ourselves. It is about harnessing that assertive drive and directing it toward purposeful advancement, rather than allowing it to erupt without aim. Our brains exhibit remarkable adaptability, akin to a muscle that strengthens with exertion. The same principle applies to self-control. Each instance of consciously resisting an immediate urge, deferring gratification, or persevering with a demanding task despite a lack of motivation, fortifies the brain regions responsible for executive function and impulse regulation. Envision the process of acquiring a new language. Initially, it is arduous, your cognitive faculties feel sluggish, and errors are frequent. Yet, with consistent practice, new neural pathways emerge and fluency becomes more effortless, more innate. The same phenomenon occurs with self-control. When you practice abstaining from that extra indulgence for the sake of your health, or when you push through that final set at the gym despite muscular fatigue, you are actively augmenting your capacity for self-mastery. Neuroscientists have observed that these sustained efforts precipitate measurable alterations in brain structure, thereby enhancing your ability to make judicious choices in the future. This is not serendipity. It is the brain's response to your focused dedication, becoming more adept at managing impulses and enacting deliberate decisions. This internal reinforcement directly bolsters your confidence as you begin to place trust in your own faculty for sound judgment and the execution of your intentions. In an era where the definition of manhood is sometimes mired in ambiguity, self-control emerges as a genuine virtue, not an indicator of weakness. For too long, the prevailing narrative has occasionally equated masculinity with brute force or unchecked dominance. However, true strength resides not in the absence of restraint, but in its intelligent application. Self-control signifies maturity, discipline, and the formidable capacity for intentional action. It distinguishes between a wildfire that devastates all in its path and a controlled burn that clears the way for nascent growth. When a man demonstrates self-control, he signals that he is not subjugated by his baser instincts, but is their sovereign. He can navigate intricate situations with thoughtful consideration, address disagreements with respect, and pursue his objectives with unwavering focus. This redefines masculinity, shifting its focus from a superficial display of power to a more profound and impactful form of strength, a strength rooted in integrity and self-awareness. It is about possessing the power to act, coupled with the wisdom and discipline to discern how and when to wield that power. The nexus between self-control and boldness is frequently misconstrued. We might perceive boldness as mere fearlessness or recklessness. Yet, authentic boldness is something far more profound. It is the courage to act, to articulate one's truth, and to pursue one's vision, but it is a courage that is informed and guided. Self-control serves as the indispensable consort to boldness. It provides the discipline to select the opportune moment, to strategize, and to ensure that one's bold actions are purposeful and impactful rather than mere impulsive reactions. Absent self-control, boldness can readily devolve into recklessness, precipitating unintended consequences and a forfeiture of credibility. However, when harmonized with self-mastery, boldness transforms into a potent catalyst for positive change. It empowers one to advance with conviction, secure in the knowledge that one possesses the inner fortitude to confront the repercussions. It is the capacity to embrace calculated risks, to lead with integrity, and to stand firm in one's convictions, all because one possesses the inner strength and discipline to do so. Let us delve more deeply into how this process of cultivating self-control physically reshapes us, and how that transformation translates into genuine confidence. Consider the act of resisting an impulse. Imagine you are perusing social media and encounter an advertisement for an item you immediately desire. Your brain, at that precise moment, is transmitting signals of craving. The facile route is to click, to purchase, to satiate that instant urge. But if you pause, if you consciously resolve, no, this is not necessary at this juncture, I have other priorities, you are engaging your prefrontal cortex, the brain region responsible for planning, decision-making, and impulse control. This deliberate act of refusal is akin to a miniature workout for that neural area. Over time, as you repeatedly make these conscious choices, the neural pathways connecting your impulse centers to your executive control centers strengthen and become more efficient. It mirrors how a runner's leg muscles develop through consistent training, enabling them to run faster and longer. For self-control, this translates into a diminishing struggle to resist impulses over time. It becomes more automatic, more natural. This burgeoning internal capability directly fuels confidence. You begin to trust your own judgment. You know that you can resist distractions, that you can adhere to your commitments, and that you are not a slave to your immediate desires. This internal assurance is the very foundation of true confidence, a confidence built from within and consequently far more resilient than any external approbation. Now, let us examine those potent masculine energies, aggression and assertiveness. When we speak of channeling them, we are not advocating for passivity or meekness. Quite the contrary. Consider a highly competitive athlete. Their drive to win, their assertiveness in pursuing the ball, their willingness to push their physical limits. These are all manifestations of powerful energies. If left unchecked, this aggression could manifest as unsportsmanlike conduct, unnecessary penalties, or a breakdown in team cohesion. But when channeled through discipline and skill, it becomes the force that propels them to excel, to train with greater intensity, to strategize effectively, and to perform at their zenith. The same principle applies to entrepreneurship. The drive for success, the assertiveness required to present an idea, the competitive spirit to outmaneuver rivals, these are indispensable. However, without self-control, this drive can become ruthless, leading to unethical practices or burnout. When self-control is present, The entrepreneur channels that energy into astute business decisions, into cultivating robust relationships, and into persevering through setbacks with resilience. They employ their assertiveness to champion their vision, yet with due respect for others. The observable outcomes of this redirection are evident in successful ventures, innovative solutions, and individuals who lead with both strength and integrity. They do not merely succeed, they succeed in a manner that constructs something enduring and beneficial. The absence of self-control frequently engenders a convoluted entanglement of confusion and indecision. When we are perpetually reacting to every whim and external stimulus, our minds become cluttered. We lack clarity regarding our objectives because our focus is diffused. We struggle with confidence because we lack a stable internal reference point. We are perpetually seeking external validation or direction. This can foster a sensation of being adrift, uncertain of our identity or aspirations. The endeavor of redefining personal identity becomes extraordinarily arduous when one cannot even rely on oneself to adhere to a plan or manage one's own reactions. This is precisely why actively cultivating self-control as a skill is so transformative. It is akin to clearing away the undergrowth to reveal an unobstructed path. By practicing self-control, we acquire the capacity to pause, to reflect, and to make conscious choices that align with our deeper values and long-term aspirations. We learn to differentiate between transient desires and genuine needs. This process of deliberate choice-making and impulse management not only enhances our discipline, but also deepens our self-understanding. It illuminates our strengths, our weaknesses, and our true priorities. This self-awareness, born from the practice of self-control, constitutes the very bedrock upon which a robust and authentic personal identity is constructed. It enables us to transition from merely reacting to life to actively shaping it, with a confidence that stems from the knowledge that we are the architects of our own choices and behaviors. Consider the ancient Stoic philosophers. Figures such as Marcus Aurelius, who governed an empire, confronted immense pressures, betrayals, and losses. Yet, their writings reveal a profound inner tranquility and an unwavering commitment to reason and virtue. They understood that while they could not control external events, the actions of others, the caprices of fate, they could unequivocally control their own judgments, their own responses, and their own actions. This mastery over the internal realm was the genesis of their enduring strength and their capacity for wise leadership. Their practice of self-control was not about suppressing emotion, but about comprehending it, accepting it, and choosing a reasoned response over an impulsive one. This serves as a powerful illustration of how self-control, as a cultivated skill, engenders a form of confidence that is independent of circumstance. It is the confidence derived from knowing that, irrespective of external occurrences, one's inner compass remains steadfast. In contemporary times, this is mirrored in individuals who navigate immense pressure with grace. Consider a surgeon performing a life-or-death operation. Their hands must be steady, their mind sharp, their focus absolute. The slightest lapse in self-control, a moment of panic, a flicker of inattention, could have catastrophic consequences. Their ability to perform under such extreme conditions is a testament to years of rigorous training, certainly, but also to an ingrained mastery of their own physical and mental responses. This is self-control honed into a skill that saves lives. Or consider a leader confronting a crisis, tasked with making difficult decisions that will impact thousands. They must resist the urge to react emotionally, to assign blame, or to pursue the path of least resistance. Instead, they must channel their assertiveness into clear communication, their drive into problem-solving, and their focus into identifying the optimal solution, all while maintaining composure. This is the disciplined application of masculine energy, directed by self-control, leading to effective leadership and a profound sense of capability. This journey of mastering self-control is not about transforming into a rigid automaton, devoid of sentiment or passion. It is quite the opposite. It is about seizing the reins of your own potent internal engine. Imagine a magnificent racing car. It possesses incredible power, speed, and potential. But without a skilled driver, without precise steering and braking, it is merely a dangerous machine. Self-control is that skill driver. It is the discipline that enables us to harness our innate drives, our ambition, our competitiveness, our desire for connection, and direct them purposefully. It is the conscious skill that prevents these powerful forces from running amok and causing damage, instead guiding them toward constructive and meaningful outcomes. It is the foundation upon which we can build not merely a life of accomplishment, but a life of integrity and impact. But this directed energy, this controlled power, becomes truly transformative only when we possess the courage to unleash it. It is the boldness to step forth, to act, to create, and to lead, armed with the quiet. 3. Positive role models matter. The world can feel like a labyrinth, particularly when navigating the intricate terrain of self-discovery and aspiring to embody authentic manhood. We are assailed by a cacophony of messages, and often, the most strident voices lack the deepest wisdom. In such an obfuscating atmosphere, it is perilously easy to lose one's bearings, to gravitate toward influences that may not serve our highest good, or worse, that champion a brittle, ego-driven masculinity predicated on aggression or hollow victories. This is not a novel predicament, but in our hyperconnected epoch, flawed exemplars can proliferate with alarming speed, leaving countless individuals feeling adrift and uncertain of what truly holds weight. The dearth of clear, virtuous guidance is a palpable concern. We require beacons, not mere noise. Consider this. In your formative years, you likely found inspiration in the heroes of literature or cinema, or perhaps in the quiet strength of an uncle, a coach, or a teacher. These individuals, often without conscious effort, illuminated what it meant to possess fortitude, to act with fairness, to be a pillar of reliability. They offered a nascent vision of your potential. Yet, the contemporary landscape is markedly altered. The old schematics no longer universally apply, and the new ones are frequently compromised. This creates a void, a fertile ground for confusion to insinuate itself. And where there is a vacuum, something invariably rushes to fill it. All too often, it is the loudest, the most sensational, or the most readily mimicked. These are not necessarily the optimal models for forging a robust character or cultivating a self-assured identity. They may proffer superficial remedies or glittering lifestyles, but they seldom furnish the profound, enduring bedrock that genuine maturation demands. This is precisely where the potent influence of positive role models truly manifests. They are more than mere figures of admiration. They are living embodiments of the principles we aspire to uphold. When we witness an individual who exudes self-possession, who demonstrates unshakable command over their actions and emotions, or who navigates existence with a palpable sense of purpose and probity, we are not merely observing. We are absorbing. This mode of learning through observation is profoundly efficacious, directly engaging our brain's remarkable capacity for adaptation and change. A phenomenon we term skill-driven brain plasticity. Envision your brain as an expansive network of thoroughfares. When you acquire a new proficiency, such as mastering a musical instrument or learning to code, you are, in essence, constructing new routes or augmenting existing ones. The more assiduous your practice, the more robust and clearly defined those pathways become, rendering the skill increasingly intuitive. The observation of a positive role model operates through a parallel mechanism. When you witness someone navigate a challenging scenario with calm assertiveness, you are not simply registering their actions. Your brain is meticulously cataloging the process. It is constructing a potential pathway for your own response to be characterized by a similar equanimity and directness. When you observe them extend respect to others, even from a position of authority, your brain is charting the visual and emotional contours of such an interaction, thereby fabricating a blueprint for your own interpersonal engagements. This constitutes a form of learning, a skill in its own right, the skill of embodying a particular disposition. What are these indispensable qualities that positive role models so effectively demonstrate? They reveal how to harmoniously integrate strength with compassion. They validate that the competitive spirit, an inherent drive for many, can be transmuted into constructive endeavors rather than devolving into corrosive rivalries. They illustrate assertiveness not as an act of aggression, but as the clear, respectful articulation of one's needs and boundaries. They embody integrity, signifying that their actions are congruent with their pronouncements, even when faced with adversity. These are precisely the attributes capable of counteracting the pervasive confusion and detrimental influences that surround us. Rather than pursuing ephemeral validation or adopting an aggressive facade, a positive role model illuminates the enduring worth of character. They demonstrate that true strength lies not in subjugating others, but in mastering oneself and contributing constructively to the world. Consider the concept of self-governance. In a world that frequently feels tumultuous, the capacity to regulate one's own impulses, reactions, and focus is akin to possessing a superpower. A commendable role model does not feign infallibility. They reveal their strategies for managing their imperfections. They may acknowledge feeling pressure or admitting to errors, but crucially, they also exhibit their process of learning from these missteps and proceeding with resolute determination. This stands in stark contrast to the often pernicious displays of dominance or aggression that masquerade as strength. It is the quiet assurance of an individual who possesses the inner fortitude to confront life's vicissitudes, having cultivated profound self-discipline. This is the very form of control that fosters genuine self-reliance, a deep-seated conviction in one's capabilities that is independent of external affirmation or the diminishment of others. When we identify with an individual who personifies these positive attributes, it is akin to holding a mirror to our own latent potential. We begin to internalize the belief that these qualities are not exclusive to them, but are indeed attainable for us as well. This aspiration serves as a potent catalyst for confidence. It furnishes a tangible objective, a compelling and achievable vision of who I could become. It is akin to having a skilled guide illuminate the ascent of a mountain. You observe their steady progression, and you begin to apprehend that you too possess the capacity for the climb. This is not about emulating another's persona. It is about leveraging their example as a catalyst for becoming the most refined iteration of yourself. This process of aspiring and internalizing is a direct application of skill-driven brain plasticity, as our neural pathways begin to construct the architecture for these aspirational qualities. The true transformation occurs not when we passively admire, but when we actively seek out these exemplars. This is where boldness enters the equation. It demands courage to look beyond facile answers or prevailing trends and to deliberately seek out the individuals and principles that will genuinely foster our growth. This may entail delving into the biographies of historical figures who confronted monumental challenges with grace and tenacity. It could involve cultivating mentors, individuals within our sphere whose wisdom and character we hold in profound esteem. It might even extend to critically dissecting the public figures we admire, scrutinizing not merely their triumphs, but the underlying principles and habits that propelled them toward those achievements. This active pursuit is a deliberate act of self-sculpting, a bold declaration that we are the architects of our own development. Let us consider a specific illustration. Imagine a young man, whom we shall name Leo, grappling with a sense of aimlessness. He observes online personalities who espouse a lifestyle characterized by relentless competition, where success is measured by dominance and material accumulation, and where relationships are frequently transactional. This narrative, though ultimately hollow, is readily accessible. Leo begins to feel inadequate because he does not naturally embody that aggressive, overtly dominant persona. He is more introspective, more inclined toward construction than conquest. Then, Leo happens upon the narrative of a master craftsman, an elder gentleman named Mr. Henderson, who has dedicated his life to honing his skill. Mr. Henderson does not possess the widespread fame of online influencers. He is recognized within his community for the meticulous nature of his work, his quiet integrity, and his adeptness at mentoring nascent apprentices. Leo commences to observe Mr. Henderson, perhaps by viewing videos of his craft or perusing articles detailing his devotion. He witnesses how Mr. Henderson approaches an intricate project with serene focus, how he patiently imparts techniques to his apprentices, and how he treats each piece of timber with reverence, striving for perfection not for external accolades, but for the intrinsic value of the craft itself. What transpires within Leo's mind? He is not merely observing Mr. Henderson at work. He is acquiring a different order of skill. He is learning the skill of patient dedication. He is learning the skill of understated confidence, born from mastery. He is learning the skill of respectful leadership, where influence emanates from competence and care, rather than from ostentatious bravado. Leo's brain, through this observation and internal processing, begins to forge novel neural pathways. The concept of achieving success through quiet competence, through diligent skill development, and through supportive mentorship starts to feel not only plausible but profoundly desirable. This is skill-driven brain plasticity in its active manifestation. Leo's neural network is undergoing a recalibration, favoring these constructive methodologies. He begins to perceive that his own introspective disposition and predilection for building are not deficiencies, but rather strengths that can be refined into a potent form of masculinity, one that esteems creation, integrity, and genuine connection above superficial dominance. This is not about identifying a singular, flawless role model and replicating them. It is about discerning the qualities we admire in a constellation of individuals, the courage of one, the discipline of another, the empathy of a third, and weaving them into a unique tapestry of character. It is about comprehending that the traits defining positive masculinity are not immutable or anachronistic, but are dynamic and adaptable, perpetually demanding skill and boldness for their effective embodiment. When we actively seek and internalize these lessons, we are not merely constructing confidence, we are fundamentally reconfiguring our minds, forging a self that is more resilient, more adaptable, and more empowered. Just as we master a new skill through observation and practice, so too can we cultivate confidence and self-command by consciously integrating the principles and actions of those we hold in high regard. However, the journey of self-definition does not conclude with external exemplars. It necessitates an inward turn, an engagement with the most fundamental aspect of our being, our internal narrative and the stories we construct about who we are and who we have the potential to become. 4. New views on masculinity. The discourse surrounding masculinity often resembles an intricate, Gordian knot, leaving many men entangled in a bewildering array of conflicting messages. On one hand, inherent inclinations such as competitiveness, a desire for leadership, or a potent drive are frequently cast in a negative light, labeled as aggression or even as inherently damaging. Conversely, a clear, aspirational blueprint for a virtuous and robust man is seldom presented. This vacuum leaves countless men adrift, perpetually striving to conform to an ever-shifting, or perhaps fundamentally flawed, ideal. They may feel compelled toward an exaggerated stoicism, to suppress their emotions, or to adopt personas that betray their authentic selves. The absence of unambiguous, positive exemplars can engender a profound sense of insecurity, a feeling of being lost in the anonymity of the crowd, or a struggle for self-understanding. It is akin to being tasked with constructing something vital without clear instructions or the requisite tools. This pervasive confusion is far from a trivial inconvenience. Its tendrils reach into every facet of life. It shapes men's self-perception, their interpersonal dynamics, and their navigation of professional and personal spheres. When the very definition of manhood feels precarious, standing tall with conviction becomes an arduous feat, akin to traversing unstable ground. The temptation to mimic perceived societal expectations can lead to a manufactured self, devoid of authenticity. Alternatively, one might retreat, stifling natural energies and succumbing to a dull, pervasive dissatisfaction. The pressure can be immense, fostering a silent, daily struggle that many men endure. It is within this context that the concept of a rewired mind through skill acquisition emerges as profoundly potent. It offers an escape from this bewilderment, not by discarding one's intrinsic nature, but by cultivating, refining, and imbuing it with purpose. The central tenet of our exploration is that through the deliberate cultivation and practice of skills, even those that initially appear arduous or unappealing, we possess the capacity to fundamentally reconfigure our brains. This transformative process extends beyond mere task proficiency. It involves the tangible reshaping of neural pathways. When applied to the complexities of masculinity, this perspective unlocks an entirely new vista. Instead of viewing traits like assertiveness or a competitive spirit as inherently detrimental, we can learn to harness and direct them. Consider the surgeon's decisiveness in critical moments, the entrepreneur's drive to innovate and lead, or the coach's ability to channel competitive energy into team motivation. These are not negative attributes but potent forces. The objective is not their eradication, but their mastery. This is the domain where skill-driven brain plasticity asserts its significance. By focusing on developing specific proficiencies, learning to communicate assertively with respect, mastering strategic business acumen, or honing leadership capabilities, we are, in essence, teaching our brains to deploy these natural energies constructively. We forge new neural connections that enable the expression of these traits in ways that are efficacious, ethical, and empowering, rather than destructive or unbridled. This process of skill acquisition functions as a sculptor, taking raw, potentially undirected energy and shaping it into something precise and purposeful. It is about transforming latent potential into tangible capability, thereby redefining the very essence of strength. This approach provides a compelling answer to a critical question: how does the deliberate acquisition of skills directly counteract the confusion and insecurity men often experience regarding societal expectations of masculinity? The solution lies in shifting the locus of control from external, frequently contradictory, societal demands to internal, attainable mastery. When a man dedicates himself to mastering a challenging skill, be it excelling in a trade, comprehending a complex academic discipline, or achieving deep expertise in a specific field, he engages in a process that builds his competence from the ground up. This endeavor is not about appeasing others or conforming to stereotypes. It is about tangible, measurable progress. Each minor triumph, each obstacle overcome through diligent practice, sends signals to the brain that reinforce capability. These are not ephemeral feelings of worth, but direct consequences of effort and learning. Such internal validation is immeasurably more potent and enduring than any external approval. Imagine a man who feels pressure to be a decisive leader but grapples with self-doubt. Rather than attempting to contort himself into a semblance of false confidence, he could dedicate himself to developing leadership skills. This might entail enrolling in a team management course, practicing active listening, mastering effective delegation, or studying negotiation strategies. As he gains proficiency in these areas, his brain undergoes physical adaptation. New neural pathways form, fortifying his capacity for strategic thought, clear communication, and increasingly assured situational management. This is not about becoming a different individual, but about evolving into a more capable version of himself, equipped with the skills to embody the qualities society often associates with manhood, but doing so from a foundation of genuine competence, rather than mere artifice. The ambiguity surrounding masculinity dissipates when the focus shifts to building demonstrable abilities. Insecurity recedes as competence grows. This internal development establishes a solid bedrock, empowering a man to navigate the often turbulent currents of societal expectations with a renewed sense of direction and self-possession. He is no longer attempting to decipher what masculinity should entail. He is actively constructing it within himself, skill by skill. Furthermore, this emphasis on skill development allows us to reclaim and channel core masculine traits in a positive, constructive manner. Attributes such as assertiveness, competitiveness, and even a degree of controlled aggression are not inherently negative. In many respects, they represent fundamental aspects of human drive and motivation. The challenge arises when these traits remain unchecked or are expressed without skill or consideration. Consider the skilled athlete who channels their competitive spirit to surpass personal limits and achieve excellence, the adept negotiator who employs assertiveness to forge common ground and secure equitable agreements, or the vigilant protector who utilizes controlled aggression to safeguard those under their care. These are not behaviors to be feared or suppressed, but rather powerful engines for progress and protection when guided by intelligence and purpose. This leads us to a pivotal realization: the virtue of self-control and respect. True strength in masculinity does not emanate from brute force or the subjugation of others. It arises from mastery over oneself. The capacity to manage impulses, regulate emotions, and direct one's energy with deliberate intent is a highly sophisticated skill. It is a skill that demands continuous practice, akin to mastering a musical instrument or excelling in a demanding physical discipline. When a man learns to pause before reacting, to choose his words with care, and to channel his drive into productive action, he is exercising profound self-control. This is not an indicator of weakness, but a hallmark of a developed and mature individual. Moreover, this self-mastery naturally extends to one's interactions with others. Respecting women, for instance, is not a concession or a sign of diminished masculinity. It is a fundamental component of a secure and developed masculine identity. When a man possesses the confidence derived from his acquired skills and self-control, he has no need to assert dominance or belittle others to feel empowered. He can engage with women, and indeed all individuals, from a position of genuine respect and equality. He understands that true strength lies in building up, not in tearing down. This is not about adhering to a rigid social decree, but about recognizing the inherent dignity of others and acting in a manner that reflects his own inner strength and integrity. Treating women with consideration and respect is not a compromise of masculinity, but an expression of its highest form. It demonstrates a man's ability to govern his ego and to prioritize fairness and well-being over self-aggrandizement. Now, let us address the second analytical prompt. Given the societal demonization of certain traditionally masculine traits, what are specific, actionable skills men can develop to channel these traits constructively rather than suppressing them or resorting to toxic expressions? This is where practical application becomes paramount. We must move beyond abstract concepts and engage with concrete actions. Consider the trait of assertiveness. Instead of resorting to aggression or passive compliance, a man can cultivate the skill of assertive communication. This involves learning to articulate one's needs, opinions, and boundaries clearly and directly, while simultaneously respecting the needs, opinions, and boundaries of others. Specific skills in this domain include I statements. Learning to express feelings and needs from one's own perspective. I feel frustrated when deadlines are missed. Rather than assigning blame, you always miss deadlines. Active listening. Truly hearing and comprehending another person's message before formulating a response. This fosters connection rather than division. Setting boundaries. Politely yet firmly articulating what is acceptable and unacceptable in terms of behavior and treatment. This is not about rigidity but about self-respect. Negotiation skills. Developing the ability to find mutually agreeable solutions in situations where disparate needs or desires are present. This is a sophisticated skill requiring empathy and strategic foresight. Next, let us examine competitiveness. Rather than viewing it as a detrimental drive to win at any cost, it can be channeled into a skill for achieving high performance. Goal setting and planning, cultivating the ability to establish clear, challenging, yet attainable goals and then devising a structured plan to achieve them. Performance analysis. Learning to objectively evaluate one's own performance, identify areas for improvement, and adapt strategies accordingly. This is about continuous growth, not merely victory. Teamwork and collaboration. Understanding how to leverage competitive drive within a team framework, pushing oneself and inspiring others toward a shared objective. The skill here lies in elevating the collective, not just the individual. Resilience and failure. Developing the capacity to learn from defeats and setbacks without allowing them to define one's identity. This involves a skill in emotional regulation and reframing challenges as opportunities for learning. And what of aggression? This is perhaps the most sensitive trait, but when understood as a powerful energy, it can be channeled into constructive force. Strategic thinking. learning to analyze situations, anticipate potential conflicts or challenges, and formulate responses that are both effective and measured. This is about directing energy toward foresight, controlled action, developing the discipline to act decisively and powerfully when necessary, but with clear intent and careful consideration of consequences. This is the skill of directed power, not uncontrolled outbursts. Problem solving, utilizing one's drive to confront difficult challenges head-on, with energy and determination, seeking solutions rather than succumbing to frustration. Physical discipline, for those inclined, engaging in sports or martial arts can serve as a potent means of channeling physical energy and aggression into controlled movement, discipline, and respect for rules and opponents. These are not mere abstract notions, they are skills that can be acquired, practiced, and refined through dedicated effort. As a man develops these abilities, his brain undergoes physical transformation. He builds new neural pathways that support confident communication, strategic thinking, and controlled action. This is the essence of skill-driven brain plasticity in operation, converting potentially problematic traits into formidable assets. This journey of self-mastery is inherently bold. Embracing boldness, as we have explored throughout this book, is not synonymous with reckless abandon. It signifies the courage to pursue what holds value, to undertake calculated risks, and to stand firm by one's convictions, even when faced with adversity or conflicting societal messages. For men navigating the complexities of modern identity, boldness entails the courage to define masculinity on their own terms, grounded in their acquired skills and inner integrity, rather than capitulating to outdated or confusing external pressures. It means possessing the boldness to be vulnerable when necessary, to admit when knowledge is lacking, and to seek assistance or guidance. It requires the boldness to treat everyone with respect, to champion fairness, and to contribute positively to the world around them. This boldness, fortified by the solid foundation of acquired skills and self-control, engenders genuine confidence. It is not the boisterous, ostentatious confidence that frequently masks insecurity, but a quiet, unwavering self-assurance that arises from an understanding of one's capabilities and an adherence to integrity. It is the confidence of a craftsman who knows their tools, a leader who understands their team, or an individual who understands themselves. This internal validation is the most potent form. It signifies that a man is no longer reliant on the capricious whims of societal opinion for his sense of self-worth. He constructs his identity from the inside out, meticulously, skill by skill. Ultimately, a truly contemporary and empowering conception of masculinity transcends fitting into a rigid, predetermined mold. It is about the continuous, skill-driven process of self-mastery. By embracing the challenge of refining our innate drives through deliberate practice. Conclusion: our journey commenced with a fundamental revelation. Life's most profound wealth is not inherited, but actively forged through the crucible of skill. This exploration has illuminated the transformative power of deliberate learning and persistent practice, even in the face of adversity, to fundamentally reshape the architecture of your brain. This is not merely about superficial improvement. It is about a profound internal recalibration, the cultivation of new neural pathways, and the expansion of your inherent capabilities. Yet, skills, much like unrefined gemstones, demand a discerning hand and an intrepid spirit to reveal their inherent brilliance. Herein lies the indispensable role of boldness, the potent catalyst that transmutes latent potential into tangible impact. Across these pages, we have observed the brain, a marvel of neuroplasticity, not as a static construct, but as a dynamic landscape sculpted by the very efforts we invest. Each mastered skill, each surmounted obstacle represents a newly forged pathway, a strengthened connection. Now, as this inquiry draws to a close, the true endeavor, the architecting of your unique trajectory, commences. Throughout this discourse, we have meticulously dissected the mechanics of skill-driven brain plasticity. The disorienting sensation of being adrift, of uncertainty, often stems from a deficit in the requisite skills to navigate one's circumstances. This void breeds an inescapable confusion. However, as you commit to the disciplined pursuit of learning, to the rigorous cadence of practice, to the deliberate cultivation of competence, a profound clarity begins to dawn. Your brain, that astonishing organ, is not immutable, it is more akin to a meticulously tended garden. Every focused endeavor to acquire a new skill is an act of planting seeds and nurturing nascent growth. Recall the scientific revelations that demonstrate how our very thoughts can physically reconfigure the intricate wiring of our brains. This is the very essence of our shared exploration. Remember those seemingly arduous paths, the moments of gnawing frustration, the skills you may have initially found unappealing? These were not mere detours, but the fertile ground from which your neural pathways grew, meticulously constructed, forging genuine, hard-won skill. This is not solely about internal metamorphosis. It is about unlocking dormant doors. The skills you cultivate become the very keys that unlock the potential to launch a business, to craft a compelling narrative, or to seize opportunities that once lay beyond your perceived reach. As you build your repertoire of skills, you do not merely accumulate knowledge, you embody a profound sense of competence. This emergent self-assurance, much like an ingrained, practiced posture, begins to subtly influence your thought processes, your actions, and ultimately, how the world perceives you. However, a mind rewired, brimming with newly acquired competence, yearns for expression. It craves the courage to step boldly into the arena. This is where boldness transcends mere advantage to become an absolute necessity. In a world where the prevailing current often favors conformity and the fear of standing out, boldness serves as your distinctive signal. It is the force that cuts through the cacophony, the beacon that attracts attention, and the ultimate arbiter that allows your skills to be recognized and profoundly valued. We have expounded upon the principle of interaction with boldness, the profound understanding that approaching life with an unwavering confidence, even when confronting the specter of potential failure, garners an undeniable admiration. Timidity recedes into the shadows. Boldness, even in its missteps, commands an intrinsic respect. For those wrestling with the pervasive pressures of societal expectations, particularly concerning the very definition of identity and the multifaceted nature of masculinity, boldness offers a liberating path to redefine strength. True masculine virtue resides not in unchecked aggression, but in the disciplined self-control to channel that potent energy, in the ambitious drive to create and build, and in the profound respect extended to all individuals. Your inherent drive, your assertiveness, your very essence, these are formidable forces. Boldness provides the essential discipline and the visionary clarity to channel them toward creation, rather than succumbing to destruction. The courage to pursue an idea, even one that appears unconventional or potentially flawed, is often the very spark that ignites transformative innovation and unforeseen opportunities. This conclusion is not an endpoint, but rather a profound genesis. The recalibration of your mind is an evolutionary process, a perpetual unfolding fueled by your unwavering commitment to skill acquisition and your courageous embrace of boldness. You now possess a deepened comprehension of your brain's remarkable plasticity and the formidable synergy of skill and boldness that can liberate your latent potential. The path that lies before you is yours to construct, meticulously, deliberately, with courage as your unwavering compass. Go forth, embrace the inherent challenges, cultivate your skills with unyielding dedication, and step into the fullness of your life, with the boldness that your transformed mind so richly deserves. The world eagerly awaits the unique brilliance that only you can bestow.